All right, well, greetings, adventurers. Last week you all spent some time luxuriating at the Golden Bubble Spa. There you met Silvira, an archmage from Candlekeep, who was called to Baldur's Gate to examine an infernal puzzle box uncovered in the Van Thamper's mansions. Silvira opened the infernal puzzle box and revealed a series of metal discs upon which Stavius Krieg's infernal contract with Zariel was transcribed. You accepted into your ranks a golden hollyphant named Lulu that Silvira found wandering the fields of the dead near Elturel, and Lulu has enthusiastically agreed to assist Sylvie in recovering her sister's lost soul, which now you have discovered resides atop an obsidian tower somewhere in Avernus. And Dolos proposed to his companion Thirstwell outside of the orphanage that he grew up in. You are all now readying yourselves to travel with older Ravengard to Elturel, who has resolved to unify Baldur's Gate with the nation of Elturgard. But now that Thavius Krieg's infernal contract with Zariel has been discovered, the fate of Elturel and its citizens are uncertain. And that is where we begin this week. So you guys are all in the barracks. You have a little less than an hour before you are all going to teleport to the city of Scornable, which we will not get too caught up in, where you are going to try and procure a ship to arrive in Elturel in under 5 days. Dolos, you just returned to the barracks with Thirstwell, hand in hand.
I don't know what this feeling is, but it's certainly very
nice. So is there anything that any of you would like to resolve in Baldur's Gate before you leave?
Enough time for Sylvie to kind of sneak out and go to her old house.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Okay, Sylvie's gonna sneak out and do that.
Is there anything in particular you wanted to accomplish in visiting your old home here?
I'd say this is like the first time Sylvie's ever been back to her old house in years. And I guess she's probably just looking to see if, like, maybe her parents and sister were given, like, burials around the house, or just kind of seeing what it looks like now.
What part of the city do you imagine that your familial home was?
Probably right on the edge of the lower city and, like, outside of the city.
Maybe like down here in Tumbletown?
Yeah.
Tumbledown?
Tumbledown, yeah.
You head outside of the city walls towards Tumbledown, and not too much. Even though you were a child the last time you were here, it's sort of like kind of like you remember it growing up. It has the same look to it. It has the same feel, although you don't recognize any of the faces. You have these spattering of old memories of you and your sister running around, causing little mischiefs here and there. You find that the one-story cobble structure that used to be your childhood home still remains perfectly intact. You see that outside of the windows, there are like well-maintained flower boxes that hang from the windowsills. In the sort of morning hours, which I believe it currently is, many of the inhabitants of Tumbledown have moved out into the lower city, likely to board fishing vessels or head out into whatever their occupations might entail them being responsible for. So the streets are kind of quiet. There are just a few people kind of going about their business. The windows of your home are dark. You can find no clear indication of there being like graves of your parents nearby or anything. Okay. But there is a small cliffside cemetery just to the south of Tumbledown.
Alright, yeah, she'll go there real quick.
You walk out. It's sort of like where Krayley's mother was buried, except that there's a much larger sort of scrap of land that has been designated as a cemetery. So you can see many, stones coming up out of the grassy knoll that overlooks the cliffside of the river. Make an investigation check. It takes you a bit of time, but sort of on the outer edges of the cemetery, you find a single plot of land. There are no flowers adorning the stone, but you do see kind of faded on the tablet that rests in the ground the names of your parents. Here lies Mother and Father Avernus.
Is there are there flowers nearby that I can pick and put on their graves?
You do see like a hedge that goes along the wrought iron fence that encompasses the graveyard. Although the ground is sort of hard here, there are small bunches of these. They're technically would be considered a weed, but they're like these bright orange. They have these bright orange petals. They're kind of like an invasive species, so it's like they're all along the bottom of the hedge they've grown. You can see that most of the graveyard out here is not really maintained, so there's these kind of wild weeds with these orange petals that grow all along the edges of the hedges that line around the graveyard.
Yeah, Sylvie will pick some of those and put them on her parents' graves. And she'll go ahead and head back before anyone notices that she's gone.
Yeah, it doesn't take you long to make your way back to the barracks. Although that did probably take you most of the hour to make your way out there and back. Anyone else?
Crayley would just like to write a letter, I guess, passing it, requesting that it be passed on to his mom. Kind of briefly explaining the situation and that I'm going to miss her.
How does Crayley feel about the uncertainty lying ahead? You've sort of been roped into this whole situation, and really you could just remain home and rebuild a new life in Baldur's Gate with your mother. Continue working on your apothecary, and does Crayley sort of feel like they're following in their mother's footsteps? Does he harbor some sort of need for revenge, or just to kind of, is he going along with this because he's just doesn't want a similar fate to befall the people that are left in Baldur's Gate?
Yes, definitely. So Crayley is obviously nervous, a little scared. This is going to be a huge change for him to kind of leave Baldur's Gate and kind of venture into the unknown. For Crayley in the moment, he does have that thought of, I mean, I've kind of helped this far, kind of helped with the immediate dangers in Baldur's Gate. Why not just go back and stay with my mom, because then I can protect her directly? But in that moment, I feel like Crayley will look down at that bow that was passed on to him and the message about how his mom, and the impression she left on Southfoot, was kind of being a light in the community and bringing about change. So Crayley feels he wants to continue that. And even though he is nervous about leaving his mom alone, he feels, since the immediate threats have been taken care of, he can help more people and help Baldur's Gate in general by continuing with his friends.
Do you did you write a letter, or are you just having something sent out there?
Just something sent out there. Um,
Yeah. Captain Lightheart finds a Raven's Guard outside of the barracks, and after you write your letter, he gives it to them and makes sure that the carrier is aware that it is an important message and it should not be left till later.
I do have one request to include in that letter, is to specifically mention that if Thurstall were to stop by, to please make him feel at home and welcome.
Sure, that will be trouble for your mother. Sure that he will be stopping by eventually. Mavathor. I know that I, as the dungeon master, don't know much about Mavathor, uh, Mavathor's past before you were found in the cells beneath the Vamper Manors. Do you have any secret business in Baldur's Gate that you'd like to take care of?
Not particularly secret. He'll be writing a letter to his parents, and he'll stipulate that it should only be delivered to them in the event he doesn't return, and he'll kind of detail the goings-ons of the past few days and the stuff he's discovered, and that ultimately they shouldn't be sad if he doesn't return because he found a calling of, returning to where tieflings draw their power from, and he might even be able to serve his god in a meaningful manner.
So, your parents are devotees of Asmodeus as well?
I'd say they don't openly admit it. They more recognize him as a major part of their life, but they don't, they're not open about it, or as open about it as he is.
Well, it's technically not a crime.
But I don't think a lot of people appreciate it.
In even out in Little Kalimshan, there is a statue in the center of the market square of Asmodeus that many tieflings will come and give offerings or pray at.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I will fast forward a little bit because I don't want to necessarily get caught up in like 2 sessions of scornable, random, like whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll just kind of fast forward a little bit. You guys, when you take care of your business, you have your letter sent and you do your final things in Baldur's Gate. Silvira kind of prepares herself as well. She goes to the Silver Spire, inquires a few things, and when all said and done, eventually Liara leaves with Thirstwell. Liara, the knight who's recently returned to the city and is going to take over for Older in his absence. One of the higher-ranking former members of the Flaming Fist, but a trusted friend of Older Ravengard. The two of them head off to the Upper City to begin their new endeavors in Baldur's Gate, and then you see Captain Lightheart go over to Misty, who's kind of lounging on a silk black and gold silk pillow off in the corner, and he kind of kneels down and gives her a long stroke from head to tail, and you hear him say, "Look over the place for us while we're gone," and he kind of rubs the top of her white furry head, and Silvira says, well, if we're ready to go, she asks you all to form a circle and hold hands. And she says, well, if it's the first time for any of you teleporting, hold on to your breakfast. It's going to be a bumpy ride. And she kind of begins to sort of weave her hands together, and then she takes hold of your hand, Mavathor, and Uldur's, and you're all sort of, you see this like just blue mode of light kind of appear in the center of the circle that starts to expand, and then in a flash it feels like you're all just pulled in towards the center of it, and in an instant you're transported hundreds of miles to the far side of the eastern peninsulas of the Sword Coast, and you find yourself in another sort of riverside dock port city, along the river Sionthar. You guys actually appear in like a standard wizard's tower, in this. Sorry, give me a sec. My headset's freaking out. Just gotta change my settings real quick. You guys hear me okay?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah.
Um, sorry. Solara says, tells you all that this is her companion's daughter's a man by the name of Traxador, who is not currently home. But you guys sort of descend out of his tower into the city, head down towards the docks where Uldur kind of take a look at the ships that are kind of lined along the ports, and he kind of makes his way down a long pier at the end where there is a ship, a long serpent painted down either side, and see like a small crew sort of loading some crates onto the ship, and the discerning eye of this half-orc, kind of wearing like a suit of black half-plate armor. He's got like a close-cropped, military-style haircut. And on the side of the ship, you see it says the name of the ship is the Wind Serpent. It's like a brief conversation. Captain, and you see the exchange. comes back to the group and he says, all right, well, they're headed to procured us.
Krayley will throw up into the water. Yeah. Not used to teleportation.
Yeah, the first time really sucks.
Can you guys all see this map?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Captain's crew, just loading their goods onto the ship, and the captain head to the helm. You can see that the captain and his crew work fairly efficiently. The captain seems to be not really wasting any of his or his men's energy. Everything is very efficient, and that the sails are billowing in a light wind westwards towards the city of Elturel. The ship turns the pier, and as are sailing, we have a 5-day journey. Elturel. The deck is very functional. There is not much. You're able to. The ship has 3 tiers. The middle tier has spare bunks that are basically cots that line the walls of the ships, as well as the bow. There are cots that kind of line in the bow on the second layer of the ship, and the bottom layer holds each of the goods that are being transported from the city to Elturel. There's like a small private cabin, like a small kitchen, and then like another small sort of like lounge area in the middle tier of the ship. Sort of the river is the river Sionthar is quite wide. It kind of winds along back towards the Sea of Swords, and so you guys are just kind of like now making your way slowly back, essentially towards Baldur's Gate. But it is a shorter distance between Scornable and Elturel than it was Baldur's Gate to Elturel, and the winds are currently in your favor. So there's a small crew of 6 sailors, the captain, who's a half-orc, and you guys don't notice them till later in the day, but at some point you notice a Kakra, not an Aarakocra, but a shit, I forgot the name of the race. What's the crow race?
Kenku?
Kenku, yeah, you notice Kenku. Kenku kind of shimmy down from the mast and make his way down into the kitchens, and then spend about 10 minutes there, and then he heads back up, and he's got like a he had came down with like an empty pouch that was kind of hanging over one shoulder, and it comes back and it's like filled with seeds, like sunflower seeds and stuff. And see, like at the bottom of the mast, there's like a ring of sunflower seeds on the deck of the ship. You learn his name is Dirk, and if you want to speak to any of the random NPCs, you're more than welcome to. The back of two large ballistas that can shoot these 8 feet long spears. Hopefully you won't need those. So let me see. Most of the day goes by. It is now maybe an hour before sunset. Sort of west, the way the ship is sailing, see that sun over the horizon is about a quarter ways down, and sort of now that you're away from Boulder's Gate, and it's like complete perpetual gloomy fog. It's been a fairly nice day. There have been just kind of these gentle patches of clouds that have been slowly moving past as the ship takes wind downriver. And now there's just kind of this beautiful sunset is going down over the western horizon. Have you guys
Sylvie is playing with Lulu.
Dolos is below deck. He does not like water.
Great. Oops, sorry. I was just gonna say, so Krayley spends part of the day attuning to that bow, and then, if given the chance, would like to make a request of the Kenku cook. Just ask them a question. Oh, sorry.
Fill a seed pouch.
I made an assumption. Gotcha. Okay. I mean, I guess I'll still approach the Kenku. That's good. Quick question.
Yeah, you catch the Kenku. He's kind of like come back up. He's about to climb back up to the mast to his perch up in the sails.
Hey, I saw you carrying a bunch of seeds earlier. I just had a quick question for you. I was too afraid to ask the captain.
He pauses and he dips his beak in his seed pouch and turns his head towards you and kind of tilts his head. He just kind of lets out this cooing sound and then kind of in something resembling your own voice. to say, what question?
So probably too much information. I just teleported for the first time and I'm still a little bit nauseous. You wouldn't happen to have anything on this ship to help with that? I'd prefer it not be announced. I don't want to embarrass myself.
He reaches down to his belt and he pulls out a little silver flask and like holds it up to you.
I'll grab it and take a drink.
Take a swig and instantaneously feel the burn of some dark liquor. The bird says, helps with everything.
Besides the burn, do I feel a little better, or is it going to take a minute to see the results?
It'll take a minute to see the results, probably.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll hand it back, coughing a little bit, like, thank you. And then I'll walk away.
Climbs back up. You spend the day with Lulu, Sylvie, kind of playing around on the deck of the ship. At some point, the two of you are like standing at the on the rail, kind of like watching the landscape go by. You know, you can kind of see at certain points along the river as it winds, you can kind of see where the road will meet up along the riverbank, and you can see kind of like wagons and travelers on the road. And Lulu, whenever you guys come near the road, Lulu seems to become sort of fascinated with the people going by, you know. You're kind of standing there as she's perched on the rail of the ship. She asks you, Sylvie, can you tell me more about your lost soul?
She was a lot smarter than me. She was very good at playing instruments, especially this one. And then I pull out the pan flute and show it to her.
Trunk kind of like sticks out and she sniffs it. Says, it smells like an old forest.
Yeah, it was made from the trees by our home. Our father made it for her.
How did she get lost?
Somebody came and took her away from me.
He says, you know how that feels. I think I've had something taken away from me too.
Yeah, I know, Lulu. We'll try to get your memories back, I promise.
She just kind of watches the people go by and she says, I don't know. What if there are things I don't want to remember?
See, my sister would always have some smart advice to give me when I come up with questions like that. But honestly, Lulu, I don't know. Some things are easier to forget, but sometimes I feel like remembering the things that are hard makes us stronger.
He says, do you think we need to be strong?
I do think we need to be strong.
And I think I do want to remember.
Then we'll help you remember as best we can.
He thinks for a minute and, see her eyes go kind of wide. She goes, hey, I think I'm remember. Nope, it's gone.
It's okay, Lulu, you tried.
And, he says, you have things that you don't want to remember?
All the time.
All the time. You must be really strong.
I try to be.
As well. And I hope I remember everything, so I can be strong like you.
Maybe you'll be even stronger than me.
She like flies up and taps you on the forehead with her little trunk, and she says, "You're it!" And she kind of like flutters up towards the front of the ship. There's like a little trail of golden sparkles that like fall off her wings as she flies away from you to continue with your games as you pass the time. What's Delos? You've just been below deck. Silvira and Older and Born spend most of the day on the lower deck. They sit at a table in the small lounge area and they discuss with Silvira all the possible implications of what's written on the tablets that came out of the Infernal Puzzle Box. How Silvira tells them about her theories that she's had about Thavius Krieg for so many years, and how she believes that with what's written on these tablets, it's possible that in some way Thavius Krieg is bound all the citizens of Elturel to Zariel through the Creed Resolute, which is a pledge that it's like kind of like the Pledge of Allegiance in Elturel. It's something that all the citizens of the city take or make. So you hear a lot of that conversation, Delos.
Yeah, I imagine Jello. Oh, sorry.
You imagine you what?
I did go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh no, I wasn't. I was done.
Oh, okay. I imagine Jolos listens to it and it's just he he just doesn't really want to hear about it. He's kind of like, we're gonna deal with this soon enough. He'd rather focus his mind on something else. So I think he actually kind of looks for Matador. to like kind of distract himself.
Oh yeah, you find him. It's a small ship.
Navathor, what you up to?
Metathor is on the side of the ship, just kind of looking off into the distance, not really looking at anything in particular. Well, it's one of his small charms that has the holy symbol of Asmodeus on it, and he just kind of seems caught between being a million miles away and also being kind of anxious in the moment.
Are you doing one of those weird things that clerics do when they try to talk to their gods?
Like perk up
Or is
and
this
say,
I
say
don't know.
huh? What? Oh no,
Oh,
no, I'm just thinking.
oh, I did interrupt something. I'm sorry.
There's a common saying among clerics of any faith is to know the face of God is to know madness, and I can't help but wonder and also fear if I'll experience madness. We end up going to the nine hells.
Well, I think it'll be more of a certainty over a possibility. Whatever deal Daddy has made, I don't think there's any way we're going to be able to avoid it.
I see. Just don't know if I'm ready. I'll be honest. What does one even say to a god?
You could say, hey, God, I don't know your name. I don't know what you're doing, but you want to help us out? Or not help us out, depending on what they like and don't like. I don't
He'll
know
have
God.
kind of a sour expression on his face and say, I really wouldn't recommend going around saying that to clerics. Some of them might not be as kind as I to you.
Wait, you're being kind right now? Okay, I'll stop with the jokes. Stop with the jokes. I'm sorry. I'm also kind of nervous, Mabel. And I don't know. I was actually kind of looking for you so I could get some advice on something. Since you're a cleric and all.
Mm. Well, if you're looking for a way out of the contract, I can pretty much tell you it's probably airtight. That's the way they do it down in the Nine Hells. It's very unlikely that we'll be able to break this contract in any meaningful way.
It was more of a personal problem, but that is also very good to know. I was just wondering, like, how do you talk to your God? How do you worship them or follow them?
Well, more often than not, the big gods talk to us isn't always a conversation. Sometimes it's a sign, sometimes it's a pattern you notice. But those lucky enough to reach a higher level of a certain clergy, that then allows a certain amount of direct communication.
Okay. Well, is it possible to, I don't want to say worship, but like do favors for God in return for some power, like divine thing?
Uh, I guess it depends what you mean. I mean, a lot of people give favors to gods without even expecting anything in return.
Oh, well, that's stupid.
Is it?
I mean, why would you not expect anything in return? Everybody wants something.
That's true, but sometimes people want to do something out of the kindness of their heart.
I guess that's true.
For example, the multitude of churches in Baldur's Gate. There's some who do good just purely to do good.
Hmm. Okay. I guess that makes sense.
But
Maybe just satisfied feeling good.
I didn't take you for the worshipping type. Is there any specific god you're interested in?
I don't think you'll like the answer to that.
It's up to you if you want to answer it.
Dolus is gonna cast message. And he's gonna telepathically speak to you. I don't know if you've heard of Miracle, but he's the one I'm worshipping right now.
I see. Do you find camaraderie in his teachings? Do you find enlightenment?
I find logical reason and a sense of respect for what he did when he was mortal to get to where he is now. And a weird sort of admiration for the power that he holds.
I see. It's somewhat similar to my experience with Asmodeus. He certainly a major player, and he got there through pure cunning.
Mhm.
And two of you make perception checks for me.
Okay. Is it okay if Dolos makes his a disadvantage because he's seasick?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Like
Why doesn't
he
everyone also mark a DM inspiration?
Nice.
We all experience this Avatar. You're the first one to see it. The air around the ship, the sun is setting, begins to grow cold, and the atmosphere starts to thicken tension. You notice ahead of the ship Mavathor a disturbance of reality itself. They low echoes begins to cause the water beneath the ship to tremble. Clear sky above you to become tainted, swirling shades of sickly green, fiery red. Suddenly, from the center of this unsettling phenomenon, which you spot, Mavathor, an abyssal portal begins to form. It starts out as this small, shimmering rift. It starts to crackle with dark energy, and the edges of the portal start to flicker with an eerie dim light, which casts these long, distorted shadows across the surface of the water towards the ship as it continues getting closer and closer to this anomaly. portal widens, the air around you all is filled with this acrid stench of sulfur, and an unsettling wind blows from the other side. You all start to hear strange, indecipherable whispers that sort of send these shivers down your spine, and now you're all kind of aware of what's in front of the ship. The river around the portal seems to begin to warp and twist, contorting under the influence of the abyss. And so the water starts kind of moving in all these unnatural directions. And out of the portal, finally, tendrils of inky blackness reach out into the material plane. And these grotesque, shadowy forms can be glimpsed moving within the abyssal depth. As the portal is now just open and pulsating with a rhythmic, ominous energy. You see, sort of one after another, Elvira, Captain Lightheart emerge. Below deck, and they all move to the front of the ship. You hear Older shout at the captain to drop the sails to try to avoid colliding with the portal, which now just seems like it's pulling the ship towards it. First thing emerges from it. You all see, sort of flying out of the void with a screech, this dark feathered, wiry, bird-like creature. That's wings are like 4 times the size of its body, and as they flap behind him, it has like a vulture-like beak and these long, overly long arms, at the end of which are just these massively pointed, possibly long claws. And it kind of just shoots out of the portal and is flying towards the ship. It flies towards you all. Below deck, where some of the crew still is, you start to hear them screaming as well. I would like you all to select your tokens and roll initiative. We'll take a little bit early mid-session break before combat begins, because who knows how long this will take.
And is it nighttime? I'm sorry to clarify.
It is. The sun is half set on the western horizon, so it is night is coming in.
Okay. So starting to lose
but the sky has kind of darkened, and there are these strange swirls of like eerie greens and reds now, kind of above the ship as it's being pulled towards the portal.
Okay. Thank you.
that, everybody? Yes, we do. Okay, we'll take a quick 5 before combat begins here.
All
BRB.
right.
Awesome.